Thank you so much for coming today, Caroline, and giving us a personal insight into what life is like living with a chronic UTI. I know you wanted to start by talking us through your journey in today.
Yes, thanks so much for inviting me here to speak to you today. I wanted to talk about my journey because I think it's pertinent, and I look perfectly okay, but actually I'm very far from perfectly okay. The station where I live has got 2 flights of steps up to platform level and there's no lift. And when the train pulls into Euston, there's quite a steep slope up to the concourse. I know that if I'd walked up those 2 flights of steps, negotiated the slope, then the concourse and the Euston Road, I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk to you as I am now, because my bladder would have flared up so badly from all the jolting and the jerking. So instead, my husband took me to a nearby mainline station which did have a lift, and I rang ahead and I asked to be met by a buggy when I got off the train at Euston. That's just one journey on one day, but I think it gives you a little bit of an insight into what it's actually like living with this condition.
Yeah. Can you take us back to the start? So how did you actually get the infection 8 years ago?
Well, in March 2016, I was using estrogen patches for menopausal symptoms, but I couldn't tolerate progesterone in any way, shape, or form. So I was referred to a specialist menopause GP who said, you're going to have to a Mirena coil fitted to pump out the requisite progesterone. I wasn't really happy about this, but I had no choice. The procedure itself was excruciating. There was no anesthesia. And the very next day, I was in crippling pain, and I went to A&E. They said to me, you've got a UTI, and they gave me 3 days' worth of antibiotics. I had the coil removed the following week, but the symptoms persisted. So I went back to the GP. I said, I think I've still got this infection. The dipstick was negative. They sent off a sample for culture. It came back negative. And so began weeks and weeks of toing and froing backwards and forwards to the GP. And I was really getting desperate. I managed to persuade them to give me 3 days of this and 5 days of that. But by the August of 2016, I said, look, I just want to go and see a urologist. I don't know what's going on here. So I saw the urologist in the August, and he took one look at my test results, and he said, you don't have an infection. You haven't had an infection since March. I suggest you seek psychiatric help. So I'm afraid I ignored that advice, and I did my own research, and I found a clinic in Harley Street that dealt with nothing but chronic UTIs. I went there in the November 2016. They looked at my urine under a microscope and they said to me, you've got a, quote, raging infection, unquote. And they put me on their regime of long-term, high-dose antibiotics. Well, unfortunately, I'm quite sensitive to medication. Suffice it to say that after 6 years and 11 different oral antibiotics, the side effects were getting so scary that I thought I need to come off everything because I really thought I might have some permanent damage. So since then, I've tried Chinese herbs, I've tried the Euromone vaccine, I've had gentamicin instills directly into my bladder, I've even tried phage therapy from home, but nothing has cleared this infection. I still have it 8 years on. I'm under no illusion that if the diagnostic testing had been accurate at the very beginning, and if I'd been given more than 3 days' worth of antibiotics, I don't think this infection would have become chronic.
So can you talk us through what your life was like before you developed a chronic UTI?
Yes, life was stimulating, it was fulfilling. I worked at a major public school where I've been for 25 years, and beautiful settings, erudite colleagues, the vibrancy of a school community. I went to the theatre regularly. I'd go into London, I'd meet friends, we'd go out for lunch, we'd go shopping, we'd see a show. I was always the one that pounced on the latest film or said, let's go out for a day. We had a holiday in the summer, maybe 1 week, nowhere exotic, perhaps France or Spain. So it was fun, it was happy, it was fulfilling.
What's it like now to walk in your shoes?
Well, I've given you an inclination into what one tiny journey is like on one day. I'm in a constant state of anxiety, constant fight or flight. I wake up in the morning and I think, right, what have I got to get through today? How am I going to manage it? Friends look at you and they think you're perfectly okay, and they can be quite tactless. They can sit there and talk about their lovely holidays they're going on or the social lives that they're enjoying. And I find that really hard. And you do find out who your real friends are. I think I should also stress the mental anguish that this puts you through. I have a weekly counselling session because my friends and family don't know what to say to me anymore. And I need that outlet to grieve for the life that I've lost. And also the pain I'm in 24/7, I need an outlet to express the distress that I feel. So I think physically and mentally, it's extremely challenging to live with this.
And in more detail, what sort of impact has it had on you and also your friends and your family?
Yeah. I can't begin to tell you what impact this has had. It's affected every single aspect of my life. I had to give up my lovely job. I can't get there. I can't sit. I can't drive. And I certainly can't concentrate. I can't go to the theatre. I can't travel. Life has completely shrunk, and my husband's life has had to shrink to fit mine. So I feel guilt as well as all the other emotions I feel. The anger that I'm in this mess through no fault of my own. The frustration that there's not a single treatment left for me. The jealousy of the friends I have who are doing all the things that I should be doing at this stage in my life. And the sheer disbelief that in 2024, we don't have a means of eradicating one of the most common infections known to man, or should I say woman. So the carpet has been completely ripped from under my feet, and it's been completely life-altering.
Yeah, it sounds it. What would you say to someone who is in the same position as you were 8 years ago and they're presenting at the GP? What advice would you give them?
Well, we've all spent an absolute fortune on trying to get better. I would actually say, if you can afford it, send your urine off to a private laboratory, because then you will get an accurate picture of which bacteria are causing you the problem. I now know that the dipstick test can miss up to 60% of chronic and recurring UTIs, and the MSU culture test can miss up to a shocking 90% of chronic and recurring UTIs. So I would say to that patient, get your private laboratory test and take it to the GP and insist on at least 2 weeks' worth of antibiotics. Unfortunately, there are many urologists who still take as gospel the results of these flawed results. I was unfortunate enough to meet one myself about 18 months ago, and I did a dipstick test as I was asked. And he said to me, unless you get out of your head the idea that you have an infection, I cannot work with you. I said, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt I have an infection. And he dismissed me. And when I started crying, he said, do you think you should have brought your husband with you to this consultation? The suggestion being that I'm some neurotic woman who can't conduct myself in my own consultation. I have to say this is my personal experience, and I know that there are some wonderful urologists out there, but unfortunately, many, many women are being gaslit and dismissed who present with this condition. However, the very fact that we're all here today gives me enormous hope that the patient voice is being listened to at long last. I just hope and pray that new treatment options and new testing comes to market sooner rather than later, because I've lost too many years to this awful condition already.
And finally, what would you like to say to everybody here in this room?
Thank you. I'd like to say this. There are thousands and thousands of people, mainly women, who belong to the Facebook support groups which have been set up to help people like me with this miserable condition. Every week, you will see a post that says, I can't cope with this anymore. I can't live like this anymore. I've been lying on the bathroom floor all day in tears. Please, I'm desperate. This is a post that was up just in last December. I feel like I'm in a really bad nightmare, but unfortunately, this is real. This illness has brought me into a very dark place, crying almost every day, and I'm sick of it. I really feel like I can't live like this anymore, but I have 2 beautiful young kids to look after, and it's breaking my heart. Please, can somebody help me? I'm here to represent the hidden epidemic of women who are struggling with debilitating symptoms day after day. And I want to say to you that you are the ones who can help us. You are the ones who can shine a light at the end of this very, very dark tunnel. And I want to thank you for everything that you are doing to champion our cause, and say to you, please, never, ever Stop fighting for the funding to underpin your research. Never stop asking the questions until you get the answers, until you find a cure for this awful, miserable condition. And if you don't take anything else away with you from today's conference, I would ask you please to remember these words. Nobody should have to suffer like this. I just want my life back. Thank you.